Over the last week, the UK and the U.S. announced an agreement to lower tariffs on certain items and increase trade. Meanwhile, the U.S. and China agreed to a temporary 90-day pause of tariffs on each other. With all of this trade movement for other countries, you might be wondering, where does Canada sit on our deals? For more, we're joined this morning by Moshe Lander, Senior Lecturer of Economics at Concordia University. Welcome back.
Good morning.
So we are starting to see some movement on the frameworks for deals set up with the UK and China. When can we expect to see something similar for Canada?
We saw something in about 1989, Anne-Marie. Remember, we signed the free trade agreement with the U.S. about 35 years ago and then extended it to NAFTA. So we do have an agreement in place. The only thing that's left to be done is remove the stinking tariffs that Trump put on in the first place. And we're back to business as usual. Those other two countries didn't have any framework in place. So it seems a little bit weird that they might have jumped the queue, but really we were way at the front of the line.
Well, what do we take from that? Is it that ours is more complex to work out because we do more trade back and forth? Like what can we read into the fact that we've seen the UK and China sort of have prominent verbal agreements anyway?
Right, and that's exactly it. They're verbal agreements. They're nothing in writing. They're nothing that's actually going to change the world. And what Trump is calling free trade agreements are really not free trade agreements, right? The removal of all tariffs, all barriers to trade, unencumbered access to each other's market. It's really a matter of an agreement, at least with China, to reduce the tariffs that had escalated rapidly and excessively to unsustainable numbers to something that's still really nasty, but above zero. And so they're not even back to where they were 6 months ago, let alone advancing the cause of free trade. For Canada, we do have an automatic review of CUSMA that comes in 2026. There's some debate as to whether or not that's going to be advanced now that we have a government in place, and whether that's going to be maybe the precondition to get the tariffs that we have removed.
The deal with the U.S. that they're working out with the U.K. is receiving some mixed reaction. There was a reduction in tariffs and some solidifying on specific items. Why the mixed reaction?
Well, because it really isn't a free trade agreement, right? Remember that Trump's biggest problem is that he has a dislike for trade deficits. Even though there's not necessarily anything wrong with the trade deficit, he just flat out doesn't like it because he sees trade as a zero-sum game. So the free trade agreement that he's negotiating with the UK or with China is effectively getting them to buy more American and to buy less of their country's goods. To try and balance trade. That's not a free trade agreement. If you leave consumers and businesses to decide what they do and don't want to buy, you could end up with even bigger trade deficits than what you have. You could end up with a trade surplus as well. But he's trying to steer and manipulate trade. So those agreements are not really free in the sense that they're voluntary. It's him directing, in exchange for removing the tariffs, these are my conditions.
But what's something that both leaders of both of those countries have done is make it public. And again, these, as you said, these are technically just talks. There are no signed deals yet. Nothing is solidified. Are these negotiations, these public displays, just for show? And if so, what's the end game?
Well, for Trump, it's to show that his tariff policy is successful. And see, I've brought them all to the negotiating table and look at all of the wonderful things that they're doing. And his entire view is that if he can eliminate those trade deficits, he views that as a success, rather than looking at why those trade deficits existed in the first place. For the other countries, it might be to boost business and consumer confidence back at home, where we were under terrible tariffs that we didn't ask for. And that we had to retaliate with. And now we've been able to successfully negotiate that the tariffs have come down. So if that's the type of thing that can boost confidence, it's the type of thing that can also avoid a recession, which is what a lot of countries, including Canada, are worried about these days.
Moshe, if someone were to stop you on the street and say, hey, how come China seems to be getting a deal, and the UK seems to be working out a deal, and we're not? How would you answer that?
I would say that China had 150% tariffs on them, and they're now down to something substantially less, but still above zero. So they're not even back to where they were 6 months ago. Canada is hovering around that 10-25% range. And as soon as we're ready to reopen negotiations on CUSMA, I'm sure those will go away too. It's not any sort of anti-Canadian sentiment. It's just a matter of there's a lot of scope to bring those tariffs down on the other countries where we were already starting from a low base.
Does the fact that we were also in a federal election have anything to do with it?
Probably. I'm sure that there were calls that were done. I know that Mark Carney had said before the election that he had contacted him while he was interim prime minister saying, knock it off. And now that he is prime minister, one of his first calls was to Trump. And remember that they met a week and a half ago. So there are talks that are already ongoing with the cabinet announced today. I'm sure that's agenda item number 1 when they meet.
Thanks for joining us again. Moshe Lander, Senior Lecturer of Economics at Concordia University. Have a good week.
You too.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.